Oh, hey, he did load. So, welcome everyone to the AD2L
Radiant team
Season 10
ban.
Entry League matchup between Dirty Mike and the Boys versus Ugly Family International. Dirty Mike and the Boys going to be playing the side of the die. They'll have first pick, first ban, and they're starting things out with an
10
Invoker
seconds
ban.
remaining.
Invoker having received a
5
bit of a
seconds
nerf
remaining.
here recently in the 6.86D patch that was released. They
Radiant
dramatically
team
reduced
banned.
his base agility from, I think it was 22? 20 or 22, somewhere in the 20s, the low 20s, to
Dire
14.
team pick.
So at least like a 30% nerf to his base agility, which helps reduce some of that early harass, especially those Exort Invokers that would just put a couple points into their E and just start pummeling
Radiant
the middle
team
lane.
pick.
But both teams not spending much time in the first ban phase. They know exactly who they want to get rid of, who they don't want to fight up against. And for the side of Dirty Mike and the Boys, those bans are going to be Invoker and Ursa. On the opposite side of the map, Ugly Family International. I almost mixed up the Ugly International family there. A little bit of word dyslexia, but
Radiant team
on the side of
pick.
Ugly Fam, they wanted to get rid of the Windrunner, Wind Ranger, whatever you want to call her, and the Death Prophet. Jumping into the picks, Dirty Mike and the Boys pick up Vengeful Spirit as their first pick, likely going to be
10 seconds
one of the support
remaining.
players, and an overall
5 seconds remaining.
solid support player that can fit into any lineup. Has the
Reserve time.
armor degen from Wave of Terror, has the magic missile to stun enemy heroes in place. The Vengeance aura is kind of nice, especially when she gets killed, but it's the Nether swap that makes her, I'd say, a platinum or close to platinum tier support player with the ability to save heroes and even act as a mini initiate. They're pretty biased.
10 seconds remaining.
Steel Dota, not sure what bias you're referring to. I don't think bias rhymes with Darmin either. Darmin skin, bias? Nah. Gonna have to try harder than that. The Darmin's farming. That's a rhyme for you. Hard carry for life. Actually, I don't even really play hard carry that often, but looking back into the game in progress here, we have a couple more support pickups. Dazzle being picked up by Ugly Family and Witch Doctor being picked up by Dirty Mike, so it's the supports making their way out onto the field for the first two picks, and you see this a lot in all levels of Dota, but especially in the amateur leagues. You see everyone try to control the flow of information to the opponent by picking your non-critical supports first and then revealing your true hand with your cores later on in the draft. Tusk can be played obviously as one of those fourth position supports or as like third position core,
10 seconds
going
remaining.
at it in the solo off lane.
5 seconds remaining. Reserve time.
The undying waits.
Dire team pick.
Got a few chatters in there. MYJY, Team Lincoln's showing up, representing his team. Hope all is well. Hope your games are going well. I was traveling last week, so I was unable to cast. But
10
I
seconds
cast
remaining.
Team Lincoln's about 2 weeks ago, so it's good to have you back in the channel.
5 seconds remaining.
The first, what I presume is going to be core pickup coming out, is for Ugly Family
Reserve
International,
time.
grabbing the Undying. And even though there have been some nerfs to Tombstone, in that it's now based on the number of attacks versus the total HP at the early levels, it's, you know, a little bit flimsy, but later on in the match you get 5 to 7 attacks to destroy it, and not decay, but the heal, his soul rip, regenerates some of those attacks. It's still pretty tanky, and with Tusk on the same team, you have that ability to kind of lock heroes in place between Snowball and Ice Shards, and after they take all that damage, more often than not, especially with the heroes in play here, they're going to be looking to run for their
10
lives.
seconds remaining.
If they have to run through a
5
frozen
seconds
sigil
remaining.
and a whole bunch of zombies from Tombstone, it's going to make their escape near impossible at this point.
Reserve
Phoenix being
time.
picked up by Dirty Mike and the boys is going to provide some escape in the form of Icarus Dive, and he's going to have that same right-click mechanic where his Supernova takes a number of right clicks to destroy and isn't HP based. The second round bans coming out from Dirty Mike and the boys was focused mostly on the hard carries, getting rid of the Anti-Mage and the Chaos Knight, where Ugly Family banned out some of the offlaners there in the form of Slardar, as well as what they consider to be a dangerous mid-hero as Shadow Fiend. And that may have been in preparation for what they hope to accomplish here, which is to pick up Tiny and likely throw him into the middle lane. And a Tiny without an IO can be a dangerous prospect, because he's going to have to get
10 seconds
up
remaining.
close and personal with the creep wave in order to land
5
those
seconds
last hits.
remaining.
By doing so, he opens himself up to possible harass. So I'll be
Reserve
curious to see how Dirty Mike and team decide to lane this middle lane in response to what is likely going to be a Tiny. I can't imagine that Tiny would be going anywhere other than mid unless they want to safe lane him, but that seems pretty casual. Personally, I'd like to see a roaming Tusk and an Undying in the off lane, Tiny in the mid lane, and then you pick up your hard carry with whatever's left. Dirty Mike and the boys
Radiant
going to
team
meet
back.
melee with melee in the middle lane as they choose to pick up a Dragon Knight as their 4th overall pick.
Ten seconds remaining. Dire team ban.
And the ban coming out from Ugly Family is going to be Drow.
10
Which
seconds
I
remaining.
suppose I get that. Everybody on the side of
5
Dirty
seconds
Mike
remaining.
is currently ranged. Dragon Knight going into ranged form when he
Reserve
pops
time.
his ultimate, which is during most team fights and most significant pushes. So he would receive benefits from a Drow aura in that form.
Radiant team pick.
I've seen some Dragon Knights pick up the Dragon Lance. I'm not sure if that's the best way to build him currently, because it's an item that sure helps in your dragon form, but doesn't help through the entirety of the match. You can later go on to disassemble it into its prerequisite parts to make like a BKB or whatever the case
Dire
may
team
be.
pick.
But it seems like an odd pickup if you're doing it for just that item and not just grabbing the parts in order to build into more core items later on. Ugly Family International, Ugly Fam, rounding out their draft with an Ember Spirit. So they have a couple options here for the mid lane. You can do Ember
10
mid, you can do
seconds
Tiny
remaining.
mid. And I think that's going to be
5 seconds
really the
remaining.
limitations of it. Undying, Tusk, I expect one of those two will be in the off lane.
Reserve time.
And Ember Spirit, especially before he gets the Battle Fury, can be a little lackluster in damage. He needs to get some of that base damage as well as points into Sleight of Fist, Searing Chains, his Flame Guard. So once he gets that experience, once he gets those items, then he can become a force. He's a snowbally hero one way or another. If Dirty Mike and the boys is able to lock him down early enough and keep him locked down, he'll find it
10
just
seconds
increasingly
remaining.
difficult to find farm and find the space he needs to
5
come
seconds
online and be a
remaining.
game changer. But if he finds it early, he'll be able to snowball over some of these squishier supports and even the cores who aren't that squishy on Dirty Mike and the boys. And we have a mass disconnect coming out from Ugly Family International as 4 of their players disconnect. I say at the start of most games that it's just not Dota if there's not a pause, and we're getting our first pause out of the way early here as Ugly Family disconnects in mass. they're calling go from the side of Ugly Fam, but they're still missing 2 players. And as they slowly reconnect to the game here, we'll hopefully kick off introductions. I might as well do that while they're sitting in the fountain. Playing on the side of Ugly Fam. Kind of melded into the ground here. I try to give people a view of all the cosmetics, and it's given me some difficulties. But Tiny, you can see him kind of there, hanging out underneath the ground in the fountain area. And for some reason it's still showing me Tusk. Ah! Dota, please! Why do you forsake me? Alright. Well, Tiny is going to be played by Bo Bryan. The Dazzle, who, let's see if we can find him in the fountain here. He's back there. Yeah, it's not gonna let me click on them just because they're in the process of spawning. But Big Papa Dalla playing the Dazzle, playing what I presume is going to be the hard carry in the bot lane. Playing Ember Spirit is SLCT, Solicit. I'm hoping that's what he's going for there. Playing the Undying is going to be Houston, and the only player to remain in the game for its entirety on the side of Ugly Family International is the Tusk, who's taken a nap there in the fountain, who is going to be played by Slam once he wakes up from his nap. I'm curious to see how all these cosmetics change as they kick the game off. Oh, there they are. Now they're all standing upright and good to go. Looking like they're ready for a fight. On the other side of the map, as we continue introductions, you have Alteration 17S playing the Vengeful Spirit. Playing the Wraith King, you have Prankster walking out there with his sword and board. Oh. Witch Doctor and Monkey are going to be heading into what appears to be the middle lane for now, presumably going safe lane. Safe lane is going to be IO Maggots. And we may have a fight here as
30 seconds to
International
battle.
smoke up and get ready to head into the dire jungle. Solicit leading the charge. He has a point into Searing Chains, and the smoke's going to break as they're spotted in rotation by Phoenix, and they just back off of that top rune. AO Maggots getting in couple right clicks here, playing very bold, knowing that a gank is underway, and his boldness will be met with aggression as Big Family, our ugly family, score first blood by snowballing into the slightly out of position Witch Doctor there. But as we continue introductions, we have Juicy Grape playing the mid lane Dragon Knight, and he is going to be going up against Ember Spirit by the looks of it, so they are putting Tiny into the safe lane. And then last but not least is Panty Dropper playing the safe lane Phoenix, and they're going to go with a defensive tri-lane by the looks of things on the side of Dirty Mike. So they have plenty of stuns down here. They got the 1 point into Paralyzing Cask already from the Witch Doctor, as well as the stun from VS and the stun from Wraith King. So this is going to be a very hard lane for Tiny to find any farm in, because he's going to have to eat into a lot of stuns, a lot of armor degen. Vengeful Spirit eating quite a bit of damage himself here as Tiny avalanches, and Slam rolls his way in with a snowball and secures the second kill of the game by getting that right click off on Venge after the snowball. And the multitude of stuns from Dirty Mike and the gang are not proving to be as effective as they might be later on, but at level 1 they're still relatively squishy. So an avalanche, a snowball, and some right click harass to set things up by Big Papa Dalla, enough to secure that second blood. Taking a look at the last hits real quick in this middle lane. Both mid laners kind of leading the charge. You have Juicy Grape and Solicit both heading for this bot rune, but it's going to be protected by the Tusk, who is kind of roaming around at this point. Rolling into the mid lane first, rolling into the bot lane second, and he's not quite level 6, I think, or level 2, excuse me. He's not level 6 either, but he's not level 2. But with that one extra creep, he is going to get a point into Ice Shards. Had he been level 2 just a little bit sooner, he might have been able to Ice Shard up here and block the Dragon Knight from rotating back out of position. And I missed the kill in the bottom lane here, as Wraith King is able to secure a kill against the Dazzle, but it's met in kind by a kill against the opposing support as Witch Doctor goes down. So Witch Doctor and Dazzle both going down, and then it is Wraith King getting the double kill by dropping the Tiny. So a 2-for-1 trade, not too bad. Like I said, as these heroes start to get a couple more points, and I think right around the level 3 to level 6 mark is where they're going to be most deadly. The Avalanche Toss combination is going to be pretty lethal for any of the supports if they eat some harassment damage beforehand, but with as much support that's in place down here, it's going to be hard for either team to make a true dive initiation. Now it's Big Papa Dalla's turn to rotate, and he's looking to secure this bot rune. He's going to be able to do so. So excellent rune control coming out from Big Family International. Or Ugly Family. I keep calling them Big Family. I apologize for that. But Ugly Family International. I suppose Big Family's a little bit kinder than Ugly Family, though. So if you call yourself ugly and I call you big, hey, take it as a compliment. Mid lane we get a go on to Juicy Grape as Solicit jumps forward. He has Flame Guard burning Juicy Grape down here, and there's no way for him to dispel that magic shield. So he is eventually going to fall Alteration, getting there just in time to land a stun, and tower damage is going to be on point, but is it going to be enough? A lucky bounce from the cask is going to slow Solicit down, but he's dancing with the devil here and actually goes back in for more. Lands Searing Chains onto the VS, and he's able to escape with his life, but VS and Witch Doctor both making it out as well. So good rotation from the Dazzle, sets up and secures the kill against the opposing mid, and that's going to help cement the net worth advantage in favor of Ember Spirit over the Dragon Knight. Now AO Maggots being chased down by Slam, who opts not to commit either the Ice Shards or the Snowball. I feel like he might have been able to secure that kill had he done so. Witch Doctor sitting on just a base HP pool of about 500 at this point. And he runs into Tiny in the jungle, and a real quick avalanche toss combination will make short work of him. Not who he was hoping to run into. Prankster, not yet level 6, is going to be rolled onto, but with the avalanche and toss combination being on cooldown and being inaccessible due to lack of mana, they're not going to be able to.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
You can see the support's just rotating in and out of this lane here, so nobody really in position to help support Prankster too much. It hasn't hurt him too terribly bad in terms of his net worth. He's leading his team right now with 2250, but that is falling behind the opposition, which is all about 200 gold above him. Meanwhile, in the off lane here, or the Radiant off lane, the Dire safe lane, you have Panty Dropper and Houston, both just going back and forth, both sitting at level 7. Nothing too outrageous from either player here as they just look to get experience. And Juicy Grape finds himself surrounded by Ugly Family heroes as Solicit tries to work his way around the ice wall, and he chooses the wrong direction, allowing Dragon Knight to make his escape as AO Maggots comes in with a bouncing cast, buying him the time. Panty Dropper also TPing to the lane here, trying to get a return kill on Solicit, and he's not able to do so. So now it's Dirty Mike and the gang playing aggressive. Slam snowballing towards Juicy Grape, who very quickly makes his rotation and turns back to the safety of his own fountain. So he's able to force that snowball to roll into dangerous territory. Now the dives are coming out from Ugly Family as Tusk dives, Houston dives, and now Dazzle dives. And it's a 3-for-1 trade as Juicy Grape is able to escape back to his side of the map. Wraith King almost level 6, sitting at 100 HP. Him and Tiny going back and forth while the rest of their team duke it out in the middle lane here. So both teams just emptied out their dugouts in order to commit to a big team fight in the middle lane, and at the end of the day, that is going to favor Ugly Family slightly, but the net worth charts
Dire's middle tower is under attack,
indicating that it was a little bit more in favor of Dire there. Or excuse me, it wasn't Ugly Family. Ugly Family were the ones diving. Yeah, they lost 3 in exchange for just the 1 Dazzle. Of course it was in favor of Dirty Mike and team, so. So Juicy Grape managing to make it through that fight with his life intact. Also picked up a bit of experience and at least 1 kill. Looks like he got 2 there, so that's going to catapult him in net worth to being slightly above Ember Spirit at this point, who being level 6 now has the ability to toss out one of these fire remnants, teleport back to base, he'll regen up, pop the bottle, and now he'll zoom back to his remnant
tower
and be no worse for wear. Dirty Mike and the gang identifying that Ugly Family is pulling to this side creep wave, heads in there to get a little bit of experience for themselves and clear out the creep wave. So now both teams have reset. You have Panty Dropper and Houston dueling it out in this top lane. Not sure if Panty Dropper is going to want to commit to the dive here, and he does. He tosses out his supernova for the first time this match and secures a kill for himself, having landed both the Fire Spirits and the Icarus dive, which were helping to provide some of those burn mechanics. Now Solicit making a rotation up. He is able to connect with the searing chains, but he's completely out of mana now, and diving under the tower, he's going to eat a fair amount of damage as Phoenix just teleports back to base. He says, I'm done with you. You've exhausted your one lockdown. I'm heading home. Slam being stunned right by the fountain here, and Dazzle gets swapped by Alteration. And as he looks to dive here, he is going to be cut out of position, and this snowball comes in from Slam as he tries to return fire and get a kill against that VS, but he's just going to toss himself into dangerous territory as Panty Dropper is waiting there for him and helps his team secure a kill against not only Slam the Tusk, but Bobarian the Tiny. So Panty Dropper and AO Maggots hanging out protecting their VS. And now the lane is taken over by the two meat cores, Prankster and Juicy Grape, as they look to push this tower down, while in the top lane, Houston and Solicit look to push the top tier one down. Both teams seemingly willing to give up their safe lane tier 1 without much of a defense, but as I say that, there's a teleportation in from Alteration as Panty Dropper rotates in. His Supernova's going to be on cooldown for another 5 seconds. He's eating a bit of damage, but we'll likely see it come out here very shortly as his team focuses down the Tombstone and drops the Ember Spirit, and now the chase is on to Houston. Icarus dive's not going to be there. Cask is still on cooldown. Swap was on cooldown, and Magic Missile was just too far out of range to get to Houston. So the Undying making his way to safety. Solicit ultimately falling here, and
time is running out for Dire's middle
the push
tower.
is given up on both of the safe lanes, but Ugly Family looking to make a go here on the middle lane as it's ultimately going to drop here, but Juicy Grape securing an invisibility rune for himself is going to make a go on Dazzle, who has just a sliver of health there as he tries to make it back home to safety under the protection of Shallow Grave, but the burn from Supernova is not going to allow that. So all 5 heroes from Dirty Mike and the gang grouping up in this middle lane here. Both teams trying to push towers here pretty early, pretty aggressively, but nothing successful thus far. With the whole squad in position, they will likely be able to drop this first tower of the game. That's sitting at about 400 health, 200, 100, and 0. There it is. So Solicit eyeballing it like he might want to head in for the time. Realizing that would be a suicide mission, he decides not to. Now the whole gang trying to take advantage of their early strength position are rotating as one. They are going to run into Big Papa here in the Radiant Jungle and immediately delete him from the map. They spot out Bobarian. Panty Dropper trying to stand in the way, doing some body blocking, but he's going to eat a fair amount of damage, and the zombies coming out from the Tombstone ultimately kill him off. So Tiny does fall, but it's a 1-for-1 trade in this bottom lane as so far as Phoenix dies himself. Prankster, being level 6, having enough mana for the reincarnate, is just going to dive behind the tower there and eat the death to the tower so he can respawn with full health, have enough mana to stun, and get the kill on Tusk. So exchanging his ult for a kill on Tusk, definitely not a bad exchange. Houston is in the area, and he's been throwing out decays throughout the chase there. So he's sitting on about 1200 HP, 600 total for himself, but as that fades it drops down to 300-400. And Dirty Mike and his team should know that he's down here. They saw the Tombstone, they saw the decay as they were chasing down Tusk. The decays continue to come out, so they know he's down here, they're pinging him out, and they're ready to dive. They have 4 heroes, they're trying to spot him out. Tombstone's dropped kind of in the side area here, and they ultimately do run into him. And they're focusing primarily on the Tombstone now, letting Houston get away with his life, but a big avalanche coming out from Barbarian hits all three of them. Very early Shallow Grave being tossed onto the Dazzle there, who had full health, and Tiny getting a kill against the Vengeful and the Witch Doctor. So they do lose the tower, but all 5 heroes from Ugly Family rotating to this bottom lane to get something in exchange for it, and that is the lives of the 2 supports from Dirty Mike and his team. So currently all of the Dire towers are still alive. That middle tower sticking around with 70 HP, the top tower under 400. But it may turn out to be the bottom tower that's the first to fall on the Dire side of the map. Dirty Mike and team never one to let a tower go without a strong defense. Make 2 teleportations into the lane here, and a swap comes out against Tusk, so it is going to result in just 1 kill for now, and the defense of the tower. They look to push this tower down now. O'Brien pushing the middle lane. If he pushes just a little bit more, he'll see how low this tower is.
Dire structures are fortified against all
offlane Big Papa Dala being scared away by the fortification glyph temporarily until he sees the entire Dirty Mike squad in the bot lane. Returns back, secures the kill, and now he's going to walk back and likely make use of this roll to head back to base. But Dirty Mike and the team, seeing the teleportation come out, seeing the Tombstone come out, are going to back off, head into the Radiant Jungle together. Prankster is caught out. He does not have his ultimate, so the rest of the team circles around him, protects him. Chaina Dota asking if I cast AD2L in-house games. I cast whatever games are available. I just need to be given proper heads up, and it depends on what I'm doing. If I'm traveling for work, I'm not going to be able to cast, obviously, but other than that, this is just a hobby for me. I cast for fun. I cast for whoever'd like to see it. I am actually going to be casting a special tournament this Sunday that's going to be played on Dota 1, so the original flavor Dota on the Warcraft 3 client. So that was requested of me by some of my Twitch followers. There's a few teams that I cast for who watch the stream regularly, and they're planning and preparing a Dota 1 tournament this Sunday. So yes, I can cast in-house games. I can cast whatever's available to cast. Typically Dota related, but I cast various other games as well. I'm not a League player. I'm not really a CSGO player either. So those are far less likely to be cast, but anything Dota related and anything that I'm playing from time to time, I like to not necessarily cast, but stream live as I play. So yeah, give me a heads up as to when those games are, who's playing, all that sort of stuff, especially if there's some sort of prize pool. I heard that AD2L does have an in-house tournament coming up in February, I believe, and there'll be prizes associated with that. So if you're an AD2L fan and looking for something to do in early February, I think it's let me pull up the URL. I think it's dota.playon.gg/register is the website you would need to go to register for that AD2L in-house match.
The Dire just can't resist attacking Radiant's top tower. Whoop-de-doo! Radiant's top tower has fallen. Here, get!
Sorry about that, guys. I missed the start of this fight here as I was dealing with Twitch chat, but
Dire's middle tower
You saw what
is
I
under
saw,
attack.
which is the tail end of Undying being caught slightly out of position and being crushed by the 5-man murder ball lineup that is Dirty Mike and the gang. So, right now while this is happening, Dirty Mike and his team have to share experience, they have to share farms. So yeah, they're taking map control, but it's at the cost of experience, and you can see the experience chart slightly favoring them, but not by much. And the bulk of that is due to all of these kills here, where they've been able to get a number of kills in these towers unanswered so far. A big dive and supernova coming out from Phoenix is going to just keep this entire Ugly Family squad at bay here. Bo Bryan getting the shallow grave as well as the heal, but the burn's in place and it's ultimately going to drop. Explicit trying to finish off Panty Dropper, and he is able to do it in combination with the Tusk. But the fight's not over yet. Now Ugly Family answering in kind, and it's a full team wipe here as Dazzle, Undying, and I didn't quite see who else got the kills there. For some reason, Dota's not giving me the fight recaps either, so apologies for that. But it was, at the end of the day, Houston died. The Undying got caught slightly out of position before the tier 2 tower there. Tiny ultimately fell in the uphill push, but it's 2 heroes and a tower and some tier 3 damage in exchange for the whole Dirty Mike team. Taking a look at the levels here, you can see Ember Spirit's level 13 and leading the game. Undying level 12, Tiny level 11.
Is taking a drubbing.
So all of those heroes exceeding the XP rate of heroes like Wraith King, who's still only level 8.
Is under attack.
Because as you can see, he's constantly surrounded by a number of allies. In the laning phase, he had his 2 supports with him, and since then he's been sharing experience amongst all 5 of his team members.
Tower is under attack.
Check out the inventory from Vengeful, and yep, he does have the Medallion of Courage, so anytime you see a VS, you just have to be keeping an eye out for that. Once that medallion's in place, especially if they have a Wraith King, you know they're going to be doing Roshan shortly thereafter. Tusk throws the Ice Shards in place, but the rest of his team is just not in position. They do throw out a Sentry Ward and decide to engage. Juicy Grape TPing to high ground here to isolate Slam away from both teams and away from the safety of his own allies. He's going to throw out a Walrus Punch against the Dragon Knight there, but it's not going to matter. Juicy Grape in Dragon form able to reach the Tombstone, able to reach the low ground there and help kill the Undying, and then blink over to help finish the kill against Solicit's Ember Spear. So the only hero still in play here is the Tiny, who heads into the jungle. He throws an avalanche toss onto a creep wave, and realizing that he was so low in HP that the creeps would have killed him, blinks back to his own base. So after a big team wipe in the top lane, Dirty Mike regroup. They're able to secure nearly a team wipe for themselves and drop Roshan. Ugly Family dropped a Sentry Ward in place here, and they were able to kill the Sentry Ward from Dirty Mike and team, but they left the Observer Ward in there, up there. So that Vision's still playing
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
So, excuse me, I'm sorry about that. Reading Twitch chat here as yet another fight breaks out here in the Radiant jungle. Bo Bryan getting a relatively early shallow grave, but is required is he takes a ton of damage, and they're able to drop Prankster for his first death there, and that's going to be the Aegis being burned. 30 seconds left on his ultimate, and they get a kill on Houston once again, putting him at 3 and 5 so far this game. But it's at the end of the day, it's a Undying for an Aegis, and Dirty Mike and the team looking to push the last tier 2 tower Ugly Fam have Juicy Grape popping his ultimate, his dragon form here.
Radiant's middle tower
And
is
he's
under
picked up a
attack.
Yasha so far, so I expect to see that go into a Sanch and Yasha over and
Radiant's
Prankster
middle
having
tower has fallen.
reincarnate in places, going to commit to this dive. He throws out a stun, jumps forward towards the Dazzle, eats a couple tower hits as well as a tossed creep from the Tiny. Does ultimately pop his ultimate, but that's an ultimate for a Dazzle and a tower. I'd call that a successful trade, and at this point they're approaching the 10k gold advantage mark. When you're hovering around 3-4k, that's nothing that you can't recover from, but at the 10k mark it starts to become very difficult. In addition to that, as you can see, good vision coming out from Ugly Fam as they have sentries up in the mid and near the top there. But with all of their towers down, team fights are going to be increasingly difficult for them. So say team fight breaks out here in the middle lane, Dirty Mike and his team are going to be able to teleport to this tier 2 tower, making it, you know, still a lengthy walk from there to there. But my map can't zoom out far enough to show the amount of space that they would have to walk on the Radiant side of the map to get reinforcements. And that delay of several seconds can turn the tides of a team fight dramatically. But opting to kind of avoid the team fight, Ugly Fam are going to smoke up, and they think about heading into the enemy jungle, but not seeing them anywhere on the map, decide they might be in their own secret shop area. They rotate over there, and they're not going to be able to find much, as Dirty Mike and team are just kind of farming up this middle lane. You have a few of the cores breaking off here to farm neutrals. You have Prankster farming over in the Dire secret shop, and Juicy Grape farming up their true jungle area. So a bit of XP recovery time for them here before they group up, and the lines are drawn here once again as they are calling out they want to get a pick off here, and then I presume push for the high ground. But they're not going to be able to find it, as Solicit, not sure. Oh, he has boots of travel, so he just used those to travel back to his base.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
Chain of Dota, in terms of status of the new season, this is season 10 of AD2L, and it's currently in its third week, so it still has quite a ways to go. I forget how long typical weeks are, but it's about 10-12 weeks, I believe, including playoffs and everything like that. So season 11 is still a ways off. As for the in-house game, I'm not sure when that would be. I don't think that's a seasonal thing. I think that's just whenever the folks over at AD2L decide to host one, they make the announcement and run it from there. I know this is at least the second in-house tournament that they've run, but I don't think they're referring to those as seasons yet. Dirty Mike and his team taking up a position in the enemy jungle here, trying to starve out some of their farm now that they have map control. Kill out the neutrals. They're pinging out Solicit in the mid lane here, so they try to get a gank on him, but he's just too quick. His spider senses start to tingle, and he teleports back to one of his remnants that was placed back in the base. So Ember Spirit doing a good job to find farm, even with the hyper aggression coming out from Dirty Mike and team, who continue to just kind of lurk around in the enemy jungle here. They're not quite confident enough to push uphill, especially without the Aegis. Dragon Knight just 100 gold away from his BKB by the looks of things here, so that'll be finished up very shortly. But while he's finishing that up, Some items are coming online for Ugly Family as Houston finishes up his Guardian Greaves, just rushing those and the Medallion of Courage, so playing more of a true support role than any sort of core. And they've doubled up on the Medallions of Courage, so not sure if that was a miscommunication. I was wondering if Tusk was going to be building more as a core then, and they were going to kind of rotate that farm priority, but no, it looks like they're both going support-ish. Kind of that fourth position for support.
Can its end be
Juicy Grape doesn't have the BKB on him, but is still deciding he feels safe enough to push uphill.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
Dragon form and having Prankster there with his ultimate. So they're pushing for this tower here to start things off. So far, ignoring the tombstone, Penny Dropper, Icarus dives in and he's forced to pop the supernova. And the rest of Ugly Family have to run. It's too low to get into range of the tower. Ultimately, Dazzle falls, Houston falls, Tiny falls. Ember Spirit trying to get a kill here. He's going to jump to his Remnant and try to go onto Prankster. A big snowballing coming out from Slam onto the Dragon Knight. He's not going to finish off the Dragon Knight, but they will find the Wraith King. And Dragon Knight coming back in to try to help his team out. Does get hit by that Shiva's Guard and ultimately dies. But Ember Spirit gets dropped by Phoenix and supports. So in order to defend the bottom racks, he immediately buys back, jumps in, Sleight of Fists, trying to damage them as much as possible since he's the only member of his team alive, and risking a dieback status. He's going to be hesitant to play too aggressively here. And Dirty Mike and the team having secured the melee racks back out together, protecting one another with their multiple stuns, and then teleport back home to safety while they wait for their true frontliners, their meat wagons, to respawn here. And Wraith King is back in the game. So 70, I expect they'll kind of hold off and just kind of head into the jungle and farm for another 70 seconds or so as Wraith King's ultimate cools down here. So a half successful defense from Ugly Family as they're able to defend the ranged racks, but it cost them 5 plus a buyback plus a melee racks plus a tier 3 tower. So success would be pretty generous in defining that bottom push from Dirty Mike. So you can see jumping from that 10k mark to 15k just like that. It took him a while, took him about 24 minutes to hit that 10k mark, but in just about 5-6 minutes after that they jumped to 15k. And that's just how it starts to operate in Dota. Once you eliminate your opponent's outer towers, it becomes incrementally easier to take over their farm, take over the enemy jungle, as we saw Dirty Mike's team doing here before, and looks like they're heading back into that territory now. But first, they're going to spot out that Roshan has respawned and make quick work of that as Penny Dropper raise his way into the low ground here. And Alteration keeping that armor debuff up on Roshan. He's sitting on somewhere between +2 and whenever this Wave of Terror goes off, -3 armor. Ultimately dropped, and this time it's Dragon Knight who picks up the Aegis of the Immortal. I think that's a good call. That gives both of your frontliners a sense of immortality, Wraith King with his ultimate, Dragon Knight with the Aegis. Mass teleportation coming out from Ugly Family as all of them head back to base. Tiny has now finished his Aghanim Scepter, so he'll be a sieging monster himself here. I do like the cosmetic look of this Tiny set. I think it's called the Crimson Blood or something like that. Scarlet Quarry. Not Query. The Scarlet Quarry. But he has that big, like, ruby tree as his beatdown staff. Ah. Apologies, folks. Dota crashed. I will be back into the game as soon as possible here. Sorry about this. Oh, Dota. So reliable, so fun. So we've had a pause and a crash. That's exactly what you look to Dota for. Other than that, the connections have been relatively stable, and let's see what we've missed. So in the 30 seconds that we were out of the game here, Dirty Mike and his team rolled up to the middle lane, looked like they killed 4. They got the Tusk, the Undying, the Dazzle, the Tiny, as well as the middle racks, rotated to the bottom, finished off the melee racks. They lost 2 in response for it, and now I'm getting the fight recap coming out of Dota here. It's Dazzle and Wraith King for 4 plus a mid lane. Jumping over to the net worth chart, you can see that next spike coming out, jumping from 15 to 20k and approaching 25k. Dragon Knight still has his Aegis, so he's good to go. And Dota's glitched out, so you have the Running Man Dragon Knight set. You can see it looks like he's just running around flipping people off. Excellent broken cosmetics. And when he runs like this, it's actually pretty funny to watch him go for last hits and stuff. So I want him to get into lane to start doing that, because it looks like he just runs up and slugs them. As he flips them off, he runs up. No, go hit some creeps. One up there, Juicy. That's what I'd like to see, a Dragon Knight set that has Juicy across the butt, like those yoga pants. I think that'd be a good cosmetic set. Someone should make that happen. So obviously, here comes the final push from Dirty Mike and team as they head into the top lane here. Phoenix has his Shiva's Guard, his Refresher Orb, so he's going to be able to double Supernova, but Refresher's on cooldown for another 30 seconds, so he may not have it for the initiation of this fight. Aegis is starting to run out. Here you go. You can see Juicy Grape punching those creeps now as they ping out the last set of barracks. Oh, and he heads into dragon form, but you can see him. You can see how the dragon kind of carries the legs of the Dragon Knight beneath him here for these broken cosmetics. Solicit trying to soften the front lines a little bit, throwing out his Sleight of Fist. Prankster blinks forward, and they just dive on top of the Ember Spirit, who does get the Shallow Grave, and he's able to jump to the middle lane, get a Sleight of Fist off on the creep where the creeps are there, and he eventually does fall to the creeps. So O'Brien jumping in against Prankster here, who still has his ultimate in position. The first Supernova coming off, burning down the backline supports there, dropping the Tiny, hurting the Dazzle. Dazzle ultimately falls to the multiple stuns from Dirty Mike and team, and the murder ball strategy seemed to work very effectively here. They were able to take all the outer towers, group up, eventually take the first melee racks in the bottom lane. Then they just grouped up, rolled together for the remainder of the game, and they played the fight exactly how they wanted to, forcing team fight after team fight, getting good trades, and you can see the chart shows it all. Just big team fight there, first racks there, second set of racks there, and then as the chart updates here, you can see the third racks and ultimately the fountain, as Ugly Family does call GG. They throw in the towel, and it's 20 kills to 40 kills, 39 minutes into the game. Well played by both teams, but it's Dirty Mike and the boys walking away with the Game 1 victory here. Both teams coming into this series with a 50-50 win rate in AD2L Season 10. Dirty Mike and team were 2-2, and Ugly Family have just played one series before this, which they walked out of 1-1. And I'm sure they hope to walk away from this one with a 1-1 record now that they've dropped Game 1, while Dirty Mike hope to walk away with that 2-0 victory and help them jump up in their entry-level bracket. I forget what group they're specifically in. But thank you everyone for tuning in. I apologize for the Dota crash there in the middle of the game where we missed the the middle racks going down. But hopefully you stick around and we'll watch another set of racks go down in Game 2 between Dirty Mike and the boys versus Ugly Family International. I am Darmin, coming to you live on twitch.tv/DarminCast. If you've liked the stream so far, I encourage you to subscribe, like, share, follow, tell your friends, family, co-workers, random hobos on the street, whoever, to come out, watch the game, watch the stream, and participate in some of the Twitch chat. I've been trying to keep up with you guys over there. And hopefully you stick around and we'll jump into Game 2 here as soon as both teams are ready. Until then, I will kick it over to some music and stay tuned. Bye.